We blink, bang, and it's June. Blink again, and it's December. Well, hello and welcome to episode 190 of Redefining Midlife. I'm your host, Jo Clark, and thanks so much for choosing to spend some of your precious time with me here today. Now, just quickly, before we get into the episode, if you've been showing up here regularly, and if these conversations have been hitting home for you, and whether it's the solo episodes or the amazing expert interviews, or perhaps the everyday midlife women who come on to share their lives and their stories, I just want to say thank you, genuinely. And if you haven't already done it, then the very best thing that you can do to support the show is to follow or subscribe, to share an episode with someone who needs to hear it. And if you've got a minute or two, I would really love it if you could leave me a rating or a review. Well, it was a mouthful. It costs you nothing, and it really does help the show reach more women who are ready for these kinds of conversations. So thank you in advance for all of that. It truly, truly does mean the world to me. Now, today we're doing something that I love. We're pressing pause. Well, not just pause. We're also pressing that big, beautiful reset button that tends to show up every single year right about now, right here in the middle of the year. Because here's the thing, we are officially halfway through 2026. Yeah, and I know when I say that there's a very good chance that some of you felt just that little hit of something in your chest. It's incredible how fast this year seems to be going. You almost feel like, wait, what? Where on earth has all of that time gone? Well, the middle of the year is already here, and we're at one of those genuinely special moments in the calendar year where you can stop, look back, and then intentionally and consciously turn around and look forward. And that's what today is all about. This isn't a performance review, God no. It's not a session of beating yourself up about everything that you thought you were going to do over the first 6 months. We're not doing that, not at all. What we are doing is taking a proper, honest kind of look at the first half of this year and then having a really genuine conversation with ourselves about how you want the next half to unfold. Now, I genuinely believe that this is one of the most powerful things that you can do for yourself right now. And I don't want you to sleep through this precious time we've all been given. So here's where I want you to start. Now, whether the first 6 months of this year have been full of momentum and growth and everything's ticking along beautifully, or whether life has simply just happened and you've been doing your best, your absolute best to keep your head above the water, none of that determines what happens next. And I want you to really hear that. None of it. Not the goals you didn't reach, not the habits that might have fallen over, not the plans you made in January that quietly dissolved and disappeared somewhere around March. None of that determines what the next 6 months is going to look like. And here's why. The slate isn't clean because you made a mess of the first half. The slate we've always given is always clean, and it's cleaned every single day. But this particular moment, halfway through the year, is one of those moments where you can really feel it. There's an energy about it and a sense that there's still so much time to make this year meaningful. And I think that's worth pausing for. There's something genuinely beautiful about where we sit right now. It's a natural point, a moment that life hands us, whether we ask for it or not, just to reflect, to reset, and to choose. Choose how we want the rest of this year to unfold. Choose what gets our attention. Choose what we're going to do with the time that's still ahead of us. Because December is coming. So whether you plan for it or not, whether you reflect right now or you skip past this moment, December is going to arrive. And the question that I think is really worth sitting with is simply this. How do you want to feel when it gets here? Okay, so let's begin with looking back. And I want to be really clear about what I mean here and what I don't mean. So it's not going to be about dragging out a list of everything you said you'd do in January and measuring yourself against that list. That is nothing more than a fast track to feeling terrible. and it genuinely doesn't help you one little bit. What I'm talking about is something much gentler than that, something much more honest and far more useful. It's just asking, how has this first half of the year been for you, honestly? Not through the eyes of who you thought you were going to be when January rolled around, but through the eyes of who you are right now in this moment. What's happened this year? What shifted for you? What surprised you? Where did your energy go? What showed up in your life that you didn't plan for? And I think it's really worth acknowledging something here, because I know it's true for so many women. The first half of the year doesn't always look anything like the plan you envisaged. Life takes over. The kids need you. Work goes sideways. Someone gets sick. Relationships get complicated. World events unfold. Things cost more than you expected. And you just adapt. You do what needs doing. You get on with it. And here's what I want to say about that. Getting on with it isn't a failure. Adapting is not a failure. Doing your best with what you had, that is actually something to be feeling really proud of. The reflection I'm inviting you into today isn't about what you didn't do. It's about honestly acknowledging that the first half of the year, whatever that looked like for you, and then deciding from this very moment what you want to do with the rest. And that's where your power is. Now, I want to name something because I also think it's really important. When women start to reflect, they start thinking about what they want for the next part of their life. They almost always start with what they can't do. What's in the way? What's too hard? What's too expensive or too complicated? Maybe it's too unrealistic for someone who might be in their situation. And I want you to understand why this happens. Your brain is literally designed to do that. It's just constantly scanning for potential problems, for evidence of what's not working, for what might go wrong. And that's not a character flaw of yours. It's just how our brains have been wired since, forever. And sure enough, if you look through your life through those lens of your limitations, you're going to find plenty of evidence for them. Your brain is going to serve them right up, and you'll conclude that nothing much is possible. But how about you flip the switch? What if instead of asking what you can't do, you started asking what you could do? Now, that one small word, could, changes everything, because could is curious. Could doesn't require certainty or a perfect plan. Could is just that invitation to start exploring. It's a beginning of a question, not the end of one. Like, what could the next 6 months of your life look like? What's a small thing that you could do? Not should, not have to, but could. That would move you even slightly in the direction of how you want to feel. What would be different if you just started looking at the small things that are actually available to you, rather than defending all of the reasons that won't work? Because here's what I know that is genuinely life-changing. Not the big dramatic gesture, not a complete overhaul, just that tiny shift from I can't to what if I could? That's where everything starts. And that's where your story gets rewritten. And I want to stay with something for a moment because it's been sitting with me as I've been putting this episode together for you. Time is moving fast. Honestly, we can agree that it feels like it just seems to get faster every year. We blink, bang, and it's June. Blink again, and it's December. And somewhere in that, in all of that blur, the things that we really want for our lives, the version of ourselves that we're working towards, or the life we keep meaning to start designing, well, it just gets pushed a little further down that list again. And we reinforce this by telling ourselves things like, I'll do it when things settle down. I'll do it when the kids are older. I'll do it when I've got more time on my hands, when I've got more money, when I've got more energy. I'll do it when I feel more ready. And I get that. I really do, because I've been there. But here is the honest truth that you need to hear. Later has a way of never quite arriving. There is always going to be something. There is always going to be another reason why this season of life isn't quite the right moment to start. So I want to ask you a question, and I'd really love for you to sit with it rather than just let it slide on past. What are you waiting for? And not as a push to go and do all of the things, and this isn't a criticism, it's just a curious question. What is it that you keep putting off? And what would it take for you to actually start, even in the smallest possible way? Because the second half of 2026 is still right there in front of you. It hasn't been written yet. And that is actually something really worth feeling good about. Now, I want to talk about something that I think is one of the biggest reasons that women don't start. And it's this. We think it has to be a big thing, a whole production. We think we have to have all of our ducks lined up before anything can move. We get inspired, we feel the possibility, and then we sit down and we build the most ambitious, incredible plan that you've ever seen. We're going to completely change our diet, and we're going to start exercising every morning, and then we're going to meditate as well, and we're going to read 3 or 4 books every month, and we're going to sort out the wardrobe, and we're finally going to look seriously at that business idea that we've been sitting on the shelf for the last 3 or 4 years, and it's going to start next week on Monday with the right conditions and the right headspace and a solid block of time to set everything up perfectly. And then Monday comes along and none of it starts. And why is that? Because it was always going to be too big. And then we feel like we're failures when we're actually setting that bar at ceiling height, and we're wondering why on earth we couldn't jump over it. Now, here's what I know from my own life and from mentoring women for the past 5 years. Even 15 or 20 minutes a day, just that, set aside, can genuinely change and have the most enormous impact on the way that you live your life. I'm not talking about dedicating a whole morning, not a huge overhaul, just 10 or 15 minutes of intentional time that you protect and that you actually show up for. And it doesn't require the perfect plan. It doesn't require you to have the right outfit or the right trainer or a huge amount of time or cost. You don't need everything lined up. You don't need to have it all solved before you can begin. All it requires is a commitment to do it. A small, honest commitment to yourself. And then you do that thing. And then you do it again and again. Now that's what actually changes a life. Small steps done consistently take you somewhere extraordinary. Now I think about my own life in terms of design. I'm genuinely designing it on purpose with intention. And I know that might sound like a bit of a big statement, but what I actually mean is quite simple. I get to decide what I want more of, what's going to bring me more joy, more of what challenges me in a good way. I get to decide more of what broadens my world and makes me feel alive and interested and growing. So I'm asking myself regularly, what fills my cup? What helps me live my best life? What helps me be in the best health I can possibly be in right now in this season of my life? And those aren't huge, complicated questions, but they're the big ones. And sometimes the answers are really simple. More time in nature, a morning walk, a coffee catch up with a friend I've been meaning to see for months, a book I actually wanted to read and haven't gotten to, a class or a course that stretches me, time away from my phone, time to just meditate. This is what I mean by designing your life with intention. It's not a massive project. It's not a huge overhaul. It's just a series of small, conscious choices that add up to something that genuinely feels like yours. A life that you've designed and you've created that suits you. A life that you've stepped into with both eyes open. And you can do that. You get to do that because this is your life. And this is your moment to choose what you want the next 6 months of it to look like. Because if you don't choose for yourself, I can guarantee right now, someone else will choose on your behalf and it's going to fill your precious time up. And they'll be filling it up with the things that they want, their agenda. So now for those of you who are seriously feeling a pull to do something with all of this and just to take some reflection time and turn it into something real and practical and to make this next 6 months more aligned and intentional, I want to tell you about Rediscover You. Rediscover You is the guide that I created for women at exactly this kind of moment. That crossroads where you know something needs to shift, you can feel it in your bones, but you're not quite sure where to start. Because I think that's a part that trips women up most often. It's not the desire to change. It's not maybe even the time. It's just, oh God, where on earth do I even begin? It's not knowing what your first step should be. And what I love about Rediscover You, what I personally use, are the pillars. And there are 9 life areas woven through the guide, and they become almost like a framework or a roadmap for the narrative of my own life. Because these give me a way to make sense of where I am, what truly matters to me, and what I want to move towards. Because here's something I notice with so many women, and honestly, I've caught myself doing it too. Without even realizing it, we tend to focus on the same 2 or 3 areas of our lives over and over again. And while we're pouring all of our energy into those areas, other things get quietly neglected. Maybe it's our health, maybe it's our relationships, maybe it's the things that bring us joy, our sense of purpose. And then we wonder why something feels a bit off or why life feels a bit flat, even when things are technically, in inverted commas, fine. And that's where the 9 pillars actually help you, because they invite you to look at your whole life, not just the bits that are the loudest or the most urgent or perhaps the easiest to tend to. And it's not about overhauling all 9 things at once. It's just about having a roadmap that you can actually follow, a clear, structured way of looking at your life that helps you make more intentional choices rather than just drifting through your days, reacting to whatever comes, and you get to the end of the year and you go, well, where is that year gone? Because when I have that framework, I'm not just reacting. I'm making decisions. I'm choosing. I'm designing what I want and being intentional about doing it. And there's something genuinely comforting about that. You're having something that guides the decisions you make in the big moments and also in the quiet, ordinary, everyday ones too. And I'm so thrilled that so many women have already grabbed Rediscover You. And I have to say, hearing their feedback has been one of the highlights of my year. They're telling me they feel so much more confident and clear about where they're headed. They've created a plan that feels doable for them, not overwhelming, not out of reach, and that they feel so much less stressed about the future. And why? Well, because for the first time in a long time, they really know what they want. And I'd love for that to be your case too. Now, Rediscover You includes a welcome video to get you started. It's got things like a guided visualization, some affirmation cards, and also a monthly intention planner. And it's available right now for you in my shop at joclarkcoaching.com/shop, or just head to the show notes and click directly on the link. Now, if something in today's episode has nudged you, something for you, if there's a question that you're ready to sit with more seriously, then I really encourage you to take the step and have a look. The second half of 2026, it's yours to design. So where do you want this year to take you? Because here's what I know for sure. The first 6 months don't define the second 6 months. What defines the second 6 months are the choices you make right now and the next day and then the next. They're the small, honest, intentional choices, the commitment to yourself, the decision to stop waiting for later and to start. Now, that could be either with support from me or whether you do that all by yourself. That decision is yours to make. And remember, our time is limited and it's never guaranteed. So sit with my favorite question. If not now, when? And if today's episode has really sparked something for you and you'd like to explore it further with some real one-on-one personalized support, just come and find me at joclarkcoaching.com or on Instagram, and we can talk about what that might look like for you and make this happen for you. Well, until next week, take care, and thank you so much for being here today, my friend. And here's to the next 6 months. May they be filled with lots of things that bring you joy. And let's see how it goes in December of this year. Cheers. Bye for now. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate, follow, and share it with another incredible midlife woman. And join me next week as we keep creating an amazing second half of life.